Hello, hello. Welcome in, witches. All right, we are here for August's book club meeting, and today we're going to be talking about Black Herman's Grimoire. And I've been calling it just Black Herman's Grimoire because for me, that's just been a lot easier to pronounce than like the whole mouthful Secrets of Magic, Mystery, and I don't even know how to say it. Legerdemain. If you guys know how to say it when I put you on screen, let me know. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to today's meeting and to just talk about all the things that we read about that resonated with us, that left us with some questions as we go through today. And one thing I do want to say as we're getting started and as I get you guys here on the screen is if you notice behind me, my background's a little bit different, and it's because I was finally able to move. And I just think it's funny how that kind of synced up today. That thank you guys, how it synced up that today we're talking about Black Herman's Grimoire, and I remember mentioning like a few months ago how Black Herman really showed up for me and providing me this space. So it's just really awesome to be here today and kind of having that double moment happen. With that being said, I will say I am a bit on the tired side because I literally moved this morning. So I'm still here giving you my best. But I do just want to let you guys know that if I do seem like, I don't know, any kind of low energy or just kind of maybe slightly distracted or something, it's probably just because I just moved. I got things everywhere. And I'm so looking forward to starting to decorate. But yeah, I just wanted to let you guys know so you're just aware about what's happening over here. And with those intros, let's get started on our agenda for today. So we're going to do our opening announcements, which is what we're currently doing right now, then move into our introductions, and then our book discussion, and then our closing announcements. So super simple, super easy. And for the discussion today, I was thinking about like how did I want to discuss Black Herman's Grimoire in a way that just felt like we could grab it all. And the conclusion I arrived to is ultimately, I think the best way to talk about it is just to have like a very free form, just free flowing conversation. So today I don't have that many specific questions. It's more just I have the topics that are in the book. And then I really just wanted to give us all an opportunity to bounce around and just share all the different ways that, all the different things that we took out of this book today. All right. And moving forward, we're going to be doing our land acknowledgement. And today I'm unable to like take it a step further just because a lot of my materials are packed up at the moment. But that's okay. You know, things change. Every day is a little bit different. So for today, I'll just be reading our statement. And then I just want to take a few moments of silence together before we continue to move forward. So we honor and acknowledge the land that we stand on. This is occupied territory that was once called Lenapehoking and is the home to the Lenape people. We acknowledge that this land was stolen by settlers and that the mistreatment of its first people continues to this day. While we live in a world where settlers created, we promise to work on building a better world with the help and leadership of the land's original inhabitants. We honor this land and thank you for the many gifts you give us each day. Thank you for allowing us to fight on with and for you. And with that being said, I just want to take a few moments to just hold some silence for the destruction of decolonization that's caused on the land. So let's do that now. And thank you guys. And now getting into it, just right on a roll today. Introductions. And I'll just go down on how our faces are on the screen. I believe it's more or less the same for everyone, but I'll still call your name when it's your turn to go. And let's go right to left. So let's start with June. And yeah, name, pronouns, magical path, the native spirits, and just how much progress you've made on the book.
So you want a resume? No, okay. So June, he, they, Bronx native as well. Eclectic practitioner, mostly focusing on Dominican folk magic and diasporic traditions. I've been a practitioner now since I was 14, so 15 years now. I did go through the book, but I did spend the last hour and some change revisiting some chapters. So I kind of just like reread it very recently. What was the last question? Magical paths, pronouns, book practice. Yeah, I'm gonna say this every time. Witching and bitching, trying to make it work. Super appreciative of you guys, of this space. Thank you for having me here, and I cannot wait to share insights with you guys, because this book, out of a lot of ones that we've read, was very active, touching, and surprisingly relevant to my life when it fell into my hands. And by the time I actually came to read it, I was like, yo, he's really talking to me right now. So I can't wait to see what you guys have to say.
I'm really excited for what you're going to contribute to the conversation, June. Thank you for being here. All right, and moving forward, Nisi.
Hey everyone, I'm Nisi. My pronouns are she, her. My magical path is Christian witch. Native spirits are the Muskogee people, because I'm in good old South Carolina. And I got to page 69, so Introduction to Dreams. So I'm really excited about discussing the book too. So,
Ooh,
hey,
good section. Thanks for being here, Nisi. And Takara.
Hi, I'm Takara. I'm originally from the Bronx, but I live in Harlem now. My pronouns are she and her. My magical path is still being developed, but I'm thinking of Ifa and Hoodoo. My native spirits are the Munse Nalape and the Mohegans that came up last time. And my book progress, funnily enough, me and Nisi are kind of in the same boat. I'm on like page 50, but I did read like my horoscopes and stuff, which I thought were pretty accurate. It was a little hard for me to get through the magic side, but we'll get to that in a moment. And that's about it.
Thank you for being here. I'm excited to hear your thoughts too. Like this one, I feel like because of just the time it was written, though it's written in a grimoire style, it's not really written to like, oh, here, reader, like take all this stuff. I'm really excited to see like what parts really called out to you guys. All right. And Monica. Oh, you're muted.
Sorry. Thank you for the slide, because I always forget. So my name is Monica. My pronoun is she, her, right? Magical path. I like what I think Shanice said it. She said a Christian witch. So that resonates with me because I grew up Catholic, so I would say a Catholic witch. And for the native spirits, so here I'm in Queens. The Rockaway Native tribe and the Lenape, I think it was Canarsie, something like that. There was like 2 or 3 major natives. I haven't looked into it, but I find it super interesting. But they were here. But when it comes to, I guess, my blood, because I'm Colombian, well, my family's Colombian. I mean, it could be, I don't know. It could be, I don't know which indigenous tribes. They killed them off. So, but I always find that interesting, right? The book, I haven't bought it, but I want to work with him. I don't know if I think you responded to one of my posts. I just didn't want to appropriate either. Like I thought about it. I'm like, I don't know. I want to work with him, but I didn't want to appropriate either. But then I'm like, I feel like I'm from New York. He's from New York. You know what I mean? Like it just kind of makes sense. But I want to learn more about him so I could appreciate him more, even more, before I work with him, because I want to get like the candle and the cards. So yeah, I want to know. Yeah, the New Yorker bond. Yeah, like it doesn't even matter like what your background is. You know, like whether you're Irish, Italian, or Hispanic or Black, you're still from New York. So, so yep, I'm looking forward to this, to hear what everyone else has to say about the book.
Yeah. Thank you for being here, Monica. And I love that you brought that up, right? That like, oh, I don't know, I feel like I'm appropriating. I feel like that's going to be a really fun question to discuss, because I can feel it that the witches have things they want to say. So this is going to be a really interesting conversation today. And then last but not least, me. Hi, I'm Nori. My pronouns she, they. Magical path. I've really enjoyed saying eclectic Wiccan lately, so I'm going with it, rolling with it. Native spirits, the Lenape Hoking. Here in Manhattan. And then book progress. I've been in and out of this book like throughout the months since Black Herman has sort of made himself known. So I don't think I've actually read it straight through once, but I feel like I've been in every single page at this point. So yeah, that's my progress there. And moving forward, so here is what I was saying earlier, like super simple, like discussion page. I don't really have any questions. I feel like you guys, and just based on our introductions, already have so much you're going to bring up on your own. But yeah, I just kind of did like quick notes of the main things that were within his book, the stories of like his life and his travels, the whole section on interpreting dream symbolism, the actual magic tricks themselves. And even though I still don't know how to pronounce the word Legerdemain, however, I did look it up, and it means trickery or deception, which is like, like that hand magic, stage magic. So if you were curious, there is that. How to pronounce it, you're on your own. And then he also has that whole section around astrology and like birthdays and birth months, which I thought was really interesting. And I wonder how you guys felt seeing some of those things match up or not match up with your birth month. So yeah, I'll leave it there, and then the floor is open for whoever wants to take us anywhere.
So I guess I'll start. The person who hasn't finished the book. Okay. So I did like, and I think this resonates with a lot of us, that I think from the very beginning he goes, "I'm a Christian." Like, God is like the center. I thought that was very like telling and powerful because especially like it's also been coming up in a lot of the discussions we've been having, like in the WOC meetings and other meetings, that like we all have this wound that we've had from like religion and then our spiritual practices. So I think it was really good that he started off the book in that way, and actually made me like more comfortable because I'm like, a grimoire just sounds like like per se evil, you know what I mean? Because when you hear about it in like movies and stuff, it's always like the demon has the grimoire, he's doing this, and like I really felt that kind of made me like say, okay, you know what I mean? Like he's a Christian and he's practicing magic. He's actually doing magical acts. He has this death-defying act that everyone pretty much didn't think he died from because he's known for resuscitating someone 3 days later, which I really would like to know how he learned that. He says these monks taught him it, I think, and I want to know about that. So for me, that kind of resonated, and some other stuff, but I thought like start there.
No, I love that you brought that up. Yeah, I want to jump in because I already had a thought with. I think it's literally the second page of My Mother's Prayer that he has as the opening. There is absolute like, oh my God. And I just think it's so crazy too, because in my personal life, literally a few days ago, my mother like decided to like we had a phone call and she's like, hey, like, remember to pray, remember like God's there for you and like all this stuff. And then she like sent me some Bible verses, and because of that religious trauma, right, my initial responses is usually like, like this woman. But for some reason it just felt different, whether it was or it wasn't, because she's still kind of in her own land. But when I came and I saw this and like I reread it again, I was like, oh my God, okay, I see what you're putting down. I can take the hint, and I will kind of like, even though, right, me and Christianity have our bouts, I've gotten to a point in my practice now, and I feel like every witch goes through this journey, right? Like with the religious trauma, where eventually, even though we start off like writing off Christianity, we start off like, no, like I'll never come back to it, or some of us do. And then we sort of, through a few years, almost come back and do a full circle, like back to Jesus, back to the church. But it just looks different when we approach the church this time compared to like how we had started there. But yeah, like I just wanted to share that part because the Mother's Prayer, powerful stuff.
Yeah, same. Oh, go ahead, baby.
Oh, no, you go ahead, June.
No, I was just gonna kind of piggyback on what you were saying. It's so funny because the idea of a mother praying for their child has been kind of like a very specific and recognized energy in my practice for so many years now, to the extent that like through my own prayers and meditations, with my own guides, with my own kind of connection to spirit, the recognition that because it is a mother praying through their love for their child, which is to me is one of the greatest forms of love, is the love of not just a parent, a mother for their child. It is something that I have literally been able to feel, call upon, and integrate into my practice. There are times where I'll literally tell my mother, like, listen, I'm praying for it, but I need you to pray for it too. And it's almost like I recognize the validity and power of your love made manifest through those prayers. and how they then can influence me and work with me, not just spiritually, but also literally magically. There is something about, I don't know if it's the psychological aspect of knowing that she's doing it too, but even the concrete proven way of like, sometimes I'll ask her to pray for something and do nothing myself and see it manifest, you know? And it's just one of those things where it's like, as a Catholic myself, as somebody who, you know, has had issues with like, you know, not wanting to appropriate, somebody who's worked folk magic secretly through the church and with the church, it's the idea of the mother, the divine mother, the virgin, my own mother, all of those things, like for me to see Herman like from jump recognize that as well, not only in a way gave validity to myself because I respect and admire him as a practitioner, but just reminded me that a lot of the things that we see that are expressions of love are some of the most powerful forms of not just magic, but of spiritual connection, you know? So like that whole section of Mother's Prayer for me was just like, I need to learn this. I need to adapt this. I need to somehow integrate that because that right there, like if buying the book was worth anything, for me, that page was worth it. Like it was amazing. So definitely jumping onto what Nuri and I'm sure the rest of you who have experienced that portion are gonna say, that prayer was bomb.
And yeah, Nisi, what were your thoughts?
First of all, I'm laughing because my child is running back and forth to the hallway as we're talking about the mother's prayer. And I was gonna piggyback off of everything that June said. I agree. That prayer brought me to literal tears because when I read it the first time, I thought about my grandma. So it wasn't my mom for me because we have a little back and forth going on, but it was my grandma. Like, I could viscerally feel like my grandmother praying over me as I was reading that, and it brought me to violent tears, and I needed it. So, like you said, it was worth every penny of it just to read the mother's prayer portion. It's great.
It's so awesome to hear that it really like spoke to, it sounds like everybody. Yeah. And then, yeah, floor is always open. Remember, we can stay on this topic. We can go elsewhere.
So, oh, so I did look at the astrology portion, and it was funny because I was like, I'm a Leo, right? So I'm born in August, and it's like you should marry a Sagittarius, and I did, and I thought it was kind of funny. I mean, I'm not saying it works out for everyone, but it was just really funny because I've had discussions with like other people, and they said, well, you know, it wasn't really for me. So I was like, oh, how did he know that? Of course, I'm reading my husband's one, and it does not say to marry a Leo, but you know what? He got the best. So we're gonna leave it there because I was just looking at it. I was like, it says marry someone born in June. I'm like, June, October, and January. I'm like, he talking about like a Gemini, a Scorpio, and a Capricorn, depending on which part of January you. And I'm like, But I did like that. So that was good for me. And I'm still trying to get into the dream interpretation because I have very specific dreams and I haven't seen everything in there. But I might just have to like associate stuff.
Yeah, with the birth months, I'm kind of curious to hear from everybody. Like, what was it in your birth month that like you either really enjoyed, you either were like, this is so off, just whatever like stuck out to you. I'm curious. Here, I can just share real quickly just because I happen to open it up here. My favorite thing about November, because that's my birthday, is they live long and useful lives. And that I just like the sound of that. I'm like, that is secure. I love that. And then if you guys were there for the palmistry class, if you guys remember Jim talking about the lifeline, and my lifeline's also long, like it matches with my description, which I thought was interesting. So I like that part. I'm like, yep, I'll be an old lady, and I like the sound of that.
He read me to filth. Okay, listen. I read that entire section and I was like, sir, you don't know me like that. I'm gonna need you to calm down. Like, when I tell you it was equal parts being seen, but also being motivated, like the one snippet that really almost made me emotional, especially again, like a lot of what I'm receiving from this book is super relevant to my life right now, is the section that goes, they should hold fast to the idea that they can, if only they will, and should make this their motto. And I was just like, yo, what a way to remind me of my own power, right? Like, just because I think I can, it is done, you know? And there's also a mention that we tend to do things in extremes, which is too accurate to my person. I am go big or go home against my will sometimes. So I found that beautiful. The idea of like being told, like, you know, not mentioning cancer, but still saying, you know, they will be loved by many. They have the capacity to love many, you know, to like, not in a boisterous way, but like for it to be commonplace that I'm super insecure, but people are always just like, oh, but I love June, or I love having him around, or he's so sweet, or he's so whatever. Like a reminder of the energy that I give off to other people was really fascinating. The idea of lucky days is really funny because I tend to do certain things ritualistically on the days that were mentioned. So I was like, okay, I guess they're lucky. We're gonna keep doing it. And it was just so interesting, like to kind of get a spotlight on myself for the good and the bad simultaneously and to kind of be lifted through that, right? Because as somebody that uses astrology not as the law but as a guide, and I use it as a flexible reference, it's so fascinating for somebody of a different time, of a different life path, of a totally different understanding to match up with me in a way that was so specific. Even the idea of like not valuing money. I don't give a crap about money at all. I'm somebody that I'm like, throw it away. You hungry, baby? Let's eat. You want to have fun, baby? Let's do it. And it's just like the idea of what money means to me as a means versus valuing it itself was something that I'm just like, yeah, that's me to a T. I need to work on it.
I just love everything that you just shared, June, because like it sounds like it really resonated. And then the part where you felt right equally called out, but like just validated too. Like what more could you ask for? It's just crazy. Like Black Herman was alive, what? Like almost 100 years ago now? Or died about almost 100 years ago now. And it's just like, sir, who gave you the right? Right. Yeah. What else do we have to share on the birth months? I want to hear.
So I am a March baby. So they should first formulate in their minds exactly what to do in life, then bend all of their energies towards realizing that in an ambition. I was like, well, thank you for giving me permission to manifest with all my little March heart. Thank you. I appreciate it. Something that I did not agree with. I have refused to marry anybody born in July because I'm not dealing with no cancer. I'm sorry. Take your emotions and go somewhere else. I don't want them. I don't need them. I'm a thug. I like who I am. I don't
It's
need
also
that.
Leo though. It's not just Cancer. Just saying.
That too. That too. I also have a kind of a Leo Virgo child because his birthday is next week, so he gets a little bit of both. So yes, and also no. No, you keep all of those July people away from me. I can't.
That is so funny. Oh my gosh. I love me my July cancers.
I was about to say the opposite, Nuri. I am not a fan of July cancers.
Ooh.
So I will explain myself. You can agree if you want to. So what happened was in my lifetime, us June cancers tend to be more of the mother archetype stereotype, right? I find us to be a little more lax, a little more receptive, a little more psychic intuitive. I find that those cancers that are getting closer and closer to Leo, the water starts to boil a little bit. And I find that my July Cancer counterparts tend to be a little more vapid, a little more snappy, a little more just in a funny sense. The closer they are to Leo, the more heated they are. Now, me myself, I'm a cusp baby, so like I'm right after like Gemini into Cancer. So I like to say I'm a Cancer with Gemini tendencies, which a lot of people are not a fan of. But for Cancer as a spectrum, I just find that we get more fiery the closer we are to Leo, and we're a little more calculated and introverted while we stay in June. My experience.
I co-sign. We're here. We're here. We're here.
Here, I'll share my quick little defense for my July cancers. My biggest one, really, my sister's a July cancer. So, and me and her get along really well. And then I also have another friend, like same birthday as my sister. And I find them, I love that you just said the closer they get to Leo, the more fiery and boily they get. Cause now I'm thinking about them and I'm like, wait a minute, let me see if see a little bit of that. And I can see a little bit of that with my sister. But I wonder if it works well with me though, because I am a Scorpio and like traditionally we've been assigned water and then in older systems, even fire. So I'm like,
Well,
okay, if I'm
traditionally, you guys are sisters with the Martians with Aries because you are a sign of Mars. So
something that I've because I follow classic astrology. I don't believe in like the three new planets, respectfully. So as sister signs, I will say that if Aries, I mean, if Aries is the fire of Mars, then Scorpio is the water of Mars. You guys are still the warrior. You guys are still intensity, victory, triumph, confidence. But Scorpio takes that on a more emotional, psychic level, where the fire signs tend to just be a more about action right here, right now. So that might be why you're so okay with that intensity, because if fire could be water, it would be Scorpio.
Yeah. Which, like, thinking about it, it's just, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And I'm just like, again, astrology, right? The way you check out every time, it's just insane to me. But yeah, so that's my foot in for my July Cancers. They're cool. Okay. It's just, they're a little fiery sometimes. Who else hasn't shared on their month? Because I still want to hear.
Well, Monica, do you want us to read you your month since you don't have the book?
Okay.
You're December. Okay.
Yeah, November
November,
25th.
Thank you to Takara. I totally forgot about that she didn't have the book. Go for it.
Oh, okay. All right. So for November, it says, sorry, it's just because there's like cut off a lot. They usually live long and useful lives, right? Die wealthy. Woohoo. Should guard well their actions on the 11th and the 22nd days of each month. Your diseases most common are lumbago and gout. So I guess you like food. Your lucky day is Tuesday. Your favorite colors are white, pink, green, and black. Your lucky stones are moonstone and topaz. Lucky numbers are 1 and 3, and it said you should marry those born in December, January, or July.
Aquarius, I get along with Aquarius. So January, that makes sense.
Oh, that's lucky. I don't get along with Aquarius, and that was supposed to be like my soulmate sign for Leos, and I cannot stand an Aquarius. I mean, so not funny to say for people, but like it's just we're it's
when you're in a relationship.
Yeah, we can't be in a relationship. We can be friends, kind of.
Awesome. Thank you.
Oh, the Aquarius landers like in the air a little bit too. Ooh.
But you know what it is, though? I think it's the sensitivity of like Aquarius being fixed air. It is what it is, no matter what you feel about it. And so, for those of you that are not confident enough in how you react to things, you might see that as like visceral or cutting. It's just that they're being honest and they don't have qualms about it. And so, for me, in my experience, Aquarius men use that, but then they feel self-justified and then they get sassy. Whereas Aquarius women, being, in my opinion, women are just a little more emotionally developed. They can be like, for those of us that know tarot, the Queen of Swords, truth and cutting, but still graceful, right? And so not necessarily having to be like, I have a sword, I'm gonna cut you, I don't care how you feel, like calm that ass. So that's how I feel about Aquarians in general.
Love that insight. And was that everybody that shared? I think everybody shared now for their birth month. No, that was fun. And last thing, because we just reread November, which Monica, yay, we have both November birthdays. I was gonna ask you what day, but I don't want you to feel the need to share your birthday because this does get like broadcasted on YouTube.
Oh yeah. 25th. It's okay. 25th. I put in the chat.
Gotcha. Oh, I see it. There we go. Nice. Yeah, with November. Oh, wait, you're a Sagittarius.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. Fun.
Yeah.
So with November, the only thing I wanted to say that I didn't agree with was that it says the lucky day is Tuesday. I had a beef for like 5 years with Tuesday because I don't know what it was, but every time Tuesday came around, like something was going wrong in my life. Like something was like doing like just not working out in my favor. So me and Tuesday had beef for a while, but that's the one thing I was like, I don't know how I feel about that, which I just think is ridiculous. But yeah,
I'm gonna keep note of it now and see
what happens on Tuesdays.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you one thing to maybe sit on, Neri, which is, again, going back to traditional astrology, Tuesday being Mars's day and traditionally your power day. I think that there might be something that you're resisting there. Tuesday being a day of power, of triumph, sexuality, victory. It might just be that because you're not in alignment with how you can ride the wave, you feel it crash over you instead. I think that there might be something there for you. I just think that it's about how you kind of exercise and transmute that energy. Because as a Cancerian, Mondays used to be the days that I cried, the days that I'm ignoring my own intuition and then getting hit over the head for it and all these things. And now Mondays are days for me to commune almost with the Cancer in me, if that makes sense. So
Ooh,
just a little tidbit of like, you know, taking back your own power. Like, as you know what I'm saying? Like, take
yeah.
that Scorpion energy and be like, you know what? You could either treat me like a bug and try to squish me, or I can remind you that I have a stinger.
I love that actually. Like, thank you for that, June. And I'm thinking too, with being a Scorpio, I'm like, maybe I'm supposed to be transforming these situations or like working through them in a different way. And that's just like, I'm missing that little key right there. Cause yeah, I 100% am definitely resisting something, but I'll get back to you with a little update next month. All right, where do we want to go next? I'm kind of curious what you guys thought about his stories, like the biography type section that's like half true, half just great legendary stuff. I'm just curious, like, if any stories stuck out to you, or yeah, just any thoughts there.
Y'all better talk because I won't shut up.
Go for it. I like to leave space for everybody.
So it's a few things, right? Like, he is sly, cunning, you know, he's somebody who can take a few bits and pieces of a situation and transform them, but then he's also like brave and protective. Like, you get captured by cannibals and they try to fatten you up, but then you work your food to get thinner and they kick you out, right? You get, you know, you have a child from your home village gets abducted by a lion. You go out there with nothing but a small vial and a knife, and you blind the lion, stab his ass in the heart, and save the kid. These sound really fantastical, but then it's also, he was a studied man, both magically and mundanely, right? He's a person that's traveled the world, gained numerous types of insights, holds a bunch of secrets that are kind of sacred to the places that he was at, and still was somehow given access to, and still protects them and honors them. So for me, you know, as somebody who works with spirits and somebody who works in the realm of mediumship, I think that it just gave me insight as to the archetype that he represents, right? The leader, the educator. It's funny, before I even read the book, first I could not just call him Black Herman. I always called him Mr. Herman. And then to see that he's Professor Black Herman, it's just like I automatically knew that he walked with the reverence that he earned and deserved, not one that he imposed on other people. And then having the ability to back it up. Because, like you said, whether it's made up or not, he cultivated a view from the world onto him that he was great, that he was intelligent, that he was powerful and cunning. And so for me, the majority of his stories just reminded me, like, yo, maybe not in a way that he was like a Disney princess talking to animals, but he was in tune with nature and they provided. He never had to hunt a rabbit. They always came to him when he was hungry. It's that idea of like, when you synchronize yourself enough with the world around you, nature will always provide. But what is your relationship to it and how do you give back? It never said that he just killed 12 rabbits for fun and like, you know, just because he could. It was only when he was hungry. It was like, it reminded me that this practice, in my opinion, regardless of what you call it, where you are and what it looks like, it is about attunement to the natural world and like, and using what you learn to then better yourself and your community. And it never passed that. The fact that he even said that he would not use anything in his tool belt for malice, for crime, for, you know what I'm saying, to impose on other people. In a way, for those of us that are, you know, of the Christian persuasion, it's almost saintly, right? It's almost like I will walk in purity. I will walk in not only reverence for the Lord, but for those around me. And for all that I have learned and have will only be for our betterment. So it just put him in a certain perspective for me that I had him with reverence and respect, but now I'm like, I see you, Herman. Like you a cool dude. I like you.
Yeah, and with the other sort of like archetype that he embodies, right? The magician. I also think equally of the tarot card and how right? Like the magician has all his tools on the table because he works within the universe that he is. And then like just what you were saying right now, June, like Black Herman really seemed to have that skill down, like working within the tools of the earth. And like you were saying, being in attunement with nature and like being provided for as needed for him. So yeah. And yeah, well, I'll wait before I ask my next question. I want to just give space.
Right, well, it's kind of a question, but it's because I've been reading a lot of different things. So I want to make sure I haven't confused stuff. Was this story in it where he found the lady who was the cook for someone else?
Hell yeah, the Chinese people had
I
stole her
love
girl
that
and drugged her
story.
up. Crazy.
All right, I just want to
Yes.
make sure because that was good. Like, okay. I was
And
like,
found her
yeah,
in some
imagine if that was
secret
his
water
son, like,
passage or whatever. I was like,
In a secret passage, yeah.
yes, come get her, Lord.
yes, like it was so like almost like I call like telenovela soap opera-ish of like the food was really good. They couldn't figure it out. They were like, where's she at? And he found her, and then they kind of like did the swap thing and the people were in there. I like that part of like finding the lost, and like it's really interesting because I've been like looking at videos of dowsing rods, and I brought my own dowsing rods, not really to find people, but I'm trying to figure out different ways to communicate with my spirit guide. And I kind of like that he was able to do that just based off of like his smarts, you know what I mean, and just like observation and looking, and then like going down the path and finding her and getting her back, and then doing whatever he did to those people in the end, where they basically got their just desserts. So I thought that was like a really, like a really interesting story. And I was like, okay, like, like I don't even know how he even like thought about it, but I thought it was good.
Yes. And Monica, just for like quick context, and you guys will jump in, but basically the essence of the story was it was a restaurant, like the owner, like his waitress, his worker, like was disappeared, like just out of thin air. The cook. Thank you. And yeah, he goes out, seeks out Black Herman. Hey, like I need your help. Like I don't know where my cook went. Like where are they? Black Herman does this thing, and they just like the person that was supposedly kidnapped was in the restaurant still. Like they were like hiding. I forgot how they got where.
In the across the street restaurant, and I'm going to use the words from the book, The Chinaman. They had a restaurant, abducted. I think her name was Mary. It was a woman chef. Abducted her, hid her away in some secret compartment because apparently in China it's like a unique cultural thing that they have where they make like waterproof things and like built even cities and villages underground or like under bodies of water. And so the way that they kept her was that they had her under some drug where he said she couldn't tell the difference between her original employer and the new guys. They would just talk to her, make the orders, leave her locked in there, and she wouldn't know the difference.
Thank you, June. And yeah, that was basically that story right there. Takara.
And side note, water is usually known to be like a dampener, I think. So I feel like that might be why that was in the story too, for like magic. Besides the point that those bitches threw us in it in the witch trials and stuff. And I can't swim, so I'm not gonna be by the water. But like it's supposed to be a dampener of like, of your powers. I mean, also in Ifa and other religions, it's actually considered to be something to enhance it because of the Orishas who come from the water and inhabit it. But in certain things, it's a dampener too. So I think that was also part of it, that they hid her in the tunnel underneath the water and he had to like go find her. And poor woman, she was all out of it. I don't know what drug they gave her, but it was so good she didn't know where she was at. She was all like, oh. She was like, hey, yeah, you want some gumbo? He was like, ma'am, just come with me. Like,
I think he ordered a duck. And then as soon as he ordered the duck meal, he saw the guy leave. And then he said that he pulled another trick, I believe from India, where like he turned invisible or like wasn't perceivable to the point where when he found the lady, he stayed invisible, took her out by the hand. And the guy, like, it's funny because for me, it almost feels sarcastic. He was like, before I could do anything, the door switched and the lock was put on. So I just took her back. And then he took the police back to them. And lo and behold, he was behind the compartment by himself. And I was just like, oh.
Speaking of the police, I loved how Black Herman handled himself when talking to the authorities with like power, cunning, and confidence. Just like, oh yeah, she's back here, and I use this, and this. Like he talked about it like it was nothing, no shame in his game, no none of that. And I loved that. Loved that for him. Like, especially like how we're treated by the police being like people of color. Even hearing a Black man say, "Oh yeah, I just turned myself invisible. I found Shorty. Go back there and look for her. Oh yeah, and old boy's in there too. So I helped you out." Loved that.
I love the elements that you guys are like getting out these stories because it's helping me to like look at these stories in a different way. And I'm curious because yeah, like you guys were saying, a lot of these stories are a bit fantastical, and right, the line between reality and like legend is kind of blurred, but that kind of makes it a little bit fun. And I want to know from you guys kind of like two questions. Do you think one, Black Herman was like fully aware like he was doing that and like he was very intentional about how he was gonna create these stories and have them go, so when they get read, you know, we can dive into like metaphors and dive into all these extra things? Or I don't know, like did he write these stories to just help continue to boost up his reputation? Was it a different reason? Like, what, I'm curious, what do you guys think about him making the choice to write these stories that are sort of blending that line?
Ooh, I want to jump in.
Yeah.
So in deep southern like church culture, we sing hymns and we tell like certain stories and things like that. So like, you know, during the slave times, we would sing songs like Row Jordan Row because we were telling each other, you need to go by the river. If you're trying to run this way. Like it's culturally within us to kind of share knowledge through story. I mean, that's what humans in general, but particularly with Black people. So I think the purpose of it being fantastical and having little bits of truth is that because we were indoctrinated to tell stories and get information this way, this would have been the easiest, quickest, and probably the most efficient way for us to kind of get the things that we needed to get from hearing the story. Like, because again, we've been indoctrinated in like maybe church culture. Maybe you sat and listened to your grandmama talk about this, that, and the third, or listen to John Bow say this, that, and the third. So for me, it felt like just sitting, like sitting some with some sweet tea and listening to somebody tell a story, and you get what you need to get from it because you've been in the culture so long that you can almost kind of weave in with him when it's fantastical versus when it's practical. Like it's easy for me to hear because I've been in it for so long.
And it gets plausible deniability, the fantastical parts. So, like, what if he did do something real sus to get her back, knock the man over the head or whatever? He's over here saying, yeah, I was invisible and then I found it. And so it's enough for them to be like, and not ask too many more questions because you just think he's crazy. But at the same time, it's enough to like, okay, well, I believe that he got her back. He might not have known how he did. You know what I mean? Because at that time, we also had to protect ourselves, even now. So, like, when you talk to people, I feel like, and I say this to things, and not to say I don't think the story is a lie, but some of the best lies have a lot of truth in it, so that you cover it up by putting in little bits of things that are not true, but you stick so close to it that you believe it, and therefore the person who hears it believes it. But also, depending on who you're talking to, because he needs that deniability, then there's going to be some parts of it that are just like too outlandish for them to like really, go with. So they're going to kind of like just be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna just ignore that part. You found the lady, she's cooking the duck, or again, the guy's happy. That's how it is. But I really did like his stories, and like the one where he was like, yeah, that rich lady wasn't getting over on me. She was trying to like make me part of her harem, and I was like, nah, I'm good. That was funny.
I definitely want to piggyback on what both Takara and Nisi were talking about, because what I'm about to say is a kind of a combo of what you guys said. He is and was so intelligent and knew how to deliver messages, almost like Nisi said, when you speak the language to other people, he's speaking in code, but I hear you and I see you loud and clear. Because for me, very similar to what Takara said, he might have been invisible because the other guy might have not seen it coming. You know what I'm saying? He got knocked upside the head when he was looking the other way. It could have been that he said that she was on some type of drug because she didn't know the difference of nothing, but it could have very well been of like, listen, they were gonna pay you some money, but then they locked you up. So homeboy told me to come get you. Now we coming back. You ain't see me. So I was invisible the whole time. Maybe he slipped her a coin or two. Maybe he taught her a trick or two in that moment. And so it's almost like very similar to stage magic, where it is magical until you know the truth and the mechanism behind the magic, right? It is what I want you to see and experience until you can prove it otherwise. And 9 times out of 10, because of these fantastical elements, or like in stage magic, elements of distraction, I can present whatever magical experience I want because you have no way to see through or around it. So for me, it's just like a callback to how keen he was. Like, for example, the story of his friend that was captured and tortured and interrogated because they wanted to know about him, that he usually goes on walks, and one day he didn't come back for breakfast. Herman immediately had his antennas up, like, no, 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 we're going to eat and we're going to find him tonight. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Come to find out that he had a loyal friend, right? Because the reason why they beat him was because he wouldn't speak. But they were just like, yo, if you talk to us about his tricks, like give us his magic basically, then we won't hurt you. And Herman was just like, no, absolutely not. And he can call it intuition, he can call it spirituality, he can call it his luck that he just randomly stopped upon a door, walked through it, there was a dark alley, and boom, there was his man's in the chair. But for those of us that practice, we do know about the hunches, the messages, the little bits of spiritual information. But it's also the fact that this man he knew too much for his own damn good. You know what I'm saying? Like the story with the lion and the mentioning of the rabbits. All that tells me is that he's a tracker. All that tells me is that he could read the environment, that he's somebody that has that in his tool belt. And so again, when he passes that story on, he can frame it and name it whatever he wants, but the fact of the matter is that if he's looking for you, he gonna find you. So it's just like an amazing rehashing of what he does on stage is what he does in life. He is very much like Nuri said in the tarot, the magician. I will take these elements and I will put them in the order that I desire, and I will present them to you however necessary, but I will get the goal that I'm looking for. Like, so this man, I'm telling you, he up there.
No, oh my God. You've been amazing just today, June, with every time you share. I love it. And with what you were just saying too, I have the candle right in front of me, our Black Herman candle. And when you were bringing up, well, I feel like Takara and June, how, okay, yeah, in his story, he's saying that he was invisible, that he was doing this, but who knows, maybe he like hit somebody up the head, he like gave her a coin or two, whatever. And then I'm looking at this image right now, and all I see is that like the world is literally his stage. Like the world is literally the place where he is like, yeah, I dabble in my arts and I do that, but I am a magician to all in so many different forms. So I'm loving all the like other layers that are coming out today in this discussion. And now I'm kind of curious to know, do you think the stories would have hit the same? Do you think you would have even read through the stories if they were just straight practical? Okay, I woke up and then I did this and then I got the lady. Like, do you think that would have made a difference? Would you have still been as engaged? Would you not? Do you think you still just would have been interested because it's we're talking about Black Herman and he's just like, teaching us things? I'm curious to know what your thoughts are there.
For me, I liked his cadence. So when I first read, because remember, they had given it out like in PDF form first. And so I remember I was talking to Allie. I'm like, well, you know what? I want to buy the candle. I'm just not used to working like with spirits, and I don't know what I want to do. So I still haven't lit my candles yet, right? But I like the tone. It actually, weirdly enough, reminded me of Gulliver's Travels. I don't know if anyone read that book. But like, I guess because of the time period it was written in, I really liked that. So I was like, okay, yeah, I can deal with this. And I actually thought the whole thing was going to be that way. So when it kind of turned to like the tricks and then other stuff, I was like, oh, okay. I was like fully expecting like, kind of like I noticed on our reading list, like Jambalaya, kind of like a reading like that, where it's like life stories and then, magical practices and that. So I think that's also what's causing me not to completely finish it yet, because I'm still kind of waiting for that. And I hope that it's going to like pop up that he wrote something like that, because I really vibe with that. So in answer to your question, like yes and no, like I don't want like, walk around 3 times and say, you know, Shin Kabu or something, you know, but I do like where like you give me like the story behind it, and then you give me like the practical part, because I'm a nerd, so I need like the lab, and then like you're like, and this is what could happen. Like I like that, but I also did like that the stories were like, oh, okay, like he was over here, he was born and he knew this, and he came over, he was in this, you know, in this state and in that state, and he moved and he did this on his own, and he knew how to get out of town. Like that was like, that drew me in, you know, so that made me want to read more. And then I'm still just finding the parts of it that I need in the rest of the grimoire.
I love that. Thank you, Takara.
I go back to my initial kind of point. It doesn't feel like, with the type of person that he was and the showman that he was, that he would have even wanted to or have been able to tell the story just straight up practically. Because, you know, he wouldn't have been, the showman in him wouldn't have been able to show up and show out. So again, I go back to like my first answer of like, just again, culturally, that's how we learn, that's how we tell stories. There has to, you know, there should be a little bit of the sprinkle of the fantastical, because again, we know what we're hearing when we hear that. It might take a couple of times for you to sit and listen to the story, but you still need those elements in there to either catch people's attention, maybe distract a little. Even if he hadn't have done it, well, I've still read it, yes, but there might have been like some lag, because again, we're black. I am black. Most of us here are black or people of color. We, again, it's how we tell stories. This is how we communicate with each other. Like, it would have been missing some soul if it hadn't had those elements to it. So yes, I would have read it, but then you just would have been like, Aunt didn't really tell that story. Like, you know, this little something was missing.
Yeah, I agree with what everybody's saying here. And I'm just thinking, right, even when we tell stories, like let's all be very real, right? Like when do we tell a story? We tell exactly how it went down. Like we're always like, and then we were yelling, and then we like, and then I can't believe she said XYZ, and I told her this in such a perfect, succinct way. Like, yeah, like it's so true, right? We naturally like to sort of add this like grandiosity to our stories, whether we personally deserve it or not. But yeah, I just love that. I love your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, definitely. I think that we're all in agreement that a big part of engagement is entertainment, right? Like for example, as New Yorkers, we have certain catchphrases. I'm about to tell a story. I so boom. What happened was, just with that, you just go, okay, laser in. You know what I'm saying? I think that very much like Nisi said, like without that little sprinkle, without that seasoning, honey, all we eat in is salt and pepper. That is not the soul food. That is not nurturing my ears in this moment. And I think that, not to generalize, but even like those of us that have taken like classes with Ali, those of us that have participated in like spiritual events, like you can be black, you know, bare bones, black and white. This is this relates to this has this correspondence, this has whatever. Or you can say, imagine yourself in this situation, and then this happens. That is a reflection of this because X, Y. And then something super esoteric and academic becomes like practical and like mundane, and vice versa. He'll take things that could have, like going back to the story, something as simple as I had an idea, I followed him, he didn't see me, I caught him, I beat his ass, and then I saved Shorty. That would have been a 10-second story. But instead, I used this trick from this place, and I put to use this skill that I acquired, and such was in a trance. He did not see me, he did not whatever. You are saying the same thing, but embellishment and lying are not the same thing. And then again, piggybacking to Nisi's point of the way we tell stories, the way that we speak to each other, the way that while I sing to you, listen to the lyrics, and I'm trying to give you a message, listen to the story, but then listen to the story. You know, that is something that is just part of, I think, most magical practitioners, something that belongs to most people that walk this path, whether you are a street magician or just somebody that is trying to take something big and complicated or something really boring and still get somebody to listen to you. So for me, it's just about engagement. I think that that's how he keeps you, again, in that energy that he has cultivated. I am the magician at all times, whether I am on stage or just like saving somebody from a restaurant. I am Professor Black Herman. So I think that that's just like a gorgeous constant of his capacity to speak. And going to answer your question more directly, being the super spiritual nerd that I am, if I had heard about him and he just had a very bare bones black and white version of everything, yeah, like Nisi said, it would have taken me a while. I would have read it, but not the way that I read this one because I ate that book up. So I think it's important.
The magic in and of itself is the story. That's part of it. That's part of the experience. So you need the sprinkle. You need the woo. You need it. You're not gonna get the zhuzh if you don't get the zhuzh.
Yes. And I genuinely believe, right? Like just the parts that he decided to embellish or if whatever, he made very intentional choices, right? Oh, I'm going to be invisible. I'm not going to be flying. I'm not going to be in the walls. I'm going to be doing this or that. And I think genuinely, like all those choices are so intentional too. And then that just gives us more material to like even look into like, okay, why did he decide this and not that? Or why this and what's that? And I feel like genuinely within that, there's even more of those like secrets of the universe hidden within. Yeah. And yeah, so I feel like now we've talked about his stories. We've talked a little bit about the astrology. We haven't talked much about the dream interpretation section and also the just the good old hand tricks that he has. So I'm curious to go into those two topics, and I'll sort of let you guys take the wheel on that. I'm very comfortable with silence.
Okay, so
Go for it.
I didn't really get to that part yet, but I was trying. So I said I had to like find a like one because I dreamed of like a tiger last night, right? Sometimes I have some weird dreams. This tiger was on like a rampage, and I don't see tiger in here, but he got cat, right? So I'm like, I'm gonna have to go close to it. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, it looked like the cat saying someone's going to betray me. So I don't know if that was a good dream. But I do know that at least I feel like everyone in spirituality, just in general, we have a lot of dreams and we're always trying to figure out if they mean something more than just what's on the surface. Like, did I watch a nature movie and that's why I dreamed about these tigers last night? Like, you know what I mean? They were feasting. Like, why? Like, and why do I remember that? But he does, like, he goes alphabetically, which I think is nice. And he has, like, a lot of different, like, words and phrases. I'm not quite sure what the numbers mean. I don't know if anybody else know what the numbers mean next to it. Because usually in other books it like tells you like go to this page or something, but I don't think it means that here. Like I said, I'm not sure about that. But I do like that there's like and I think Ali says this too. There's like a really extensive portion on it, and I feel like that's helpful just to like get someone else's thing aside from us going to like Google and like looking on like our favorite search engine to be like, what does it mean when I dream of a pigeon or a crow? And it's like, oh, well, you dream of a crow, that could mean this and that. So I do like, especially because he actually was a practitioner as opposed to like now where they just pull stuff from like wherever they pull it, and because you're in that mind state and you're susceptible, it makes sense to you. You know what I mean? Because I've done that a lot too, and I've gone online to figure it out, and I'm like, oh, okay, I think it's this, or maybe I just need to wait. But I do think that portion is really big, and I do like it. I'm just trying to figure out, like I said, how to make the correlations where it's not an exact, representation, but also because he wrote it like 100 years ago. Some of the terminology is not the same as what we use now. Like I think he has coquette, like a flirt. I mean, that's my SAT word. I always thought of it as a flirt. You know what I mean? So I might be thinking of like a hoe. Like we don't really use coquette anymore. You know what I mean? Like so, it's like you have to figure that out.
I would say, Takara, just to kind of simplify for yourself and not necessarily depend on like the direct references. Like, for example, you wanting to use tiger, but then like reducing it to cat. I would say two things. As far as like the letters and the numbers, you would write out the word, combine the numerical value, and then you could go back to that section where he described like the meaning of every number in numerology. Like, let's say you didn't have cat there, but you had a cat, right? So CAT would be like 312. You add those together, it's 6. So that if that's the most important thing that stood out to you, your dream has a value of 6, and you can look at it that way. Also, if you wanted to be specific and like, you know what, cat ain't doing it. This is tiger. You know what I'm saying? Match the letter to the number, reduce it by adding it all together, and then you could get the value that way. I think that it's important to note that something that I think that even Herman will agree with is that these things are not uh, locked in more so than they are guides, in the sense that as practitioners ourselves, we also need to adapt, because I think that in accepting the fact that you are making a change so that you can match what he's doing, you are robbing yourself of like the genuine reality of what your practice should be, if that makes sense. Like, I don't want you to be like, well, this is the way that I make it make sense, so I'm gonna like cut away some of the bits and like force it into that box. I would say like just try to break it down using his methods, but not necessarily having to depend on like direct correlation. Because I agree with you, a tiger is a feline, but a tiger is not a cat. And so I definitely agree where you're just like, well, I guess, somebody's going to betray me, but maybe when you get the numerical value of what tiger is, and that's a lot of mental math, I ain't gonna do that right now. It might be something a little different than what you were perceiving. I'm somebody that's worked with like planetary astrology. I like to use like astrological correspondences, and I work with numbers and letters a lot. So for me, this particular key is something that I use when I make like planetary sigils and things of that nature. So I get it because I have the background, so it clicked. But some people are just like, "What the hell is this man doing?" I would say start there, right? Don't try to do a complete phrase. Try to pick a smaller word. But in your spirit, if tiger is tiger, don't shy away from that, because that way I think that you're not the word is not neglect, but like you're taking away from the authenticity of what you're looking for and the potentiality of like misinterpreting your own message, right? And granted, I love that you're doing the mundane over magical of like, was I watching National Geographic or is the tiger relevant? Because that's also important. But then also forget about this, right? Let's just use it to help us focus on dreams. Okay, tiger. Let me hold that. Let me analyze the next few days. How does that go back to tiger? And maybe the next time you have a tiger in your dream, analyze the few days after that. Is there a correlation? And now you can say, whenever I dream of a tiger, I notice that people get nervous around me because they find me attractive. And then boom, next time I dream of a tiger, somebody else comes through and they fumbling and acting funny. Okay. So maybe I'm stepping into my power. I don't like be confident in being able to build this for yourself. And always remember that we are being guided. We're not being dictated, if that makes sense. Because I don't know. I just want you, which is all of you, to just be in your power as much as you can at all times. Not in a way that is boastful or overconfident, but remembering that it is your path that you are living and walking.
Thanks, June. You always say the right thing. Like, I know you were saying, like, you kind of have this idea of yourself, but you always brighten up the room. You always like say something that's like right on point. Because you did this before, I think, when I was down south when we had the meeting after the thunderstorm, and I was talking about my little experiences of not being able to like take in the ancestor, and I was like, oh, thank you. Okay, let me go back on mute.
No, really. Thank you for that, June. And yeah, just like kind of little thing I want to add, right? We're reading his book. I wonder what your book would look like. Like, I wonder what those meanings in yours would look like if we were building it, right? Yeah. And just to give you guys a little time check, it is 8:43 right now. We got like 15 or so minutes left. So with that being said, because we're kind of like, yeah, still jumping around topics, I want to leave it open again to honestly at this point go wherever. Like, do we want to go back to the stories, more dream things, astrology? Ooh, and I just thought about what I want to share. I wrote about it on a post too, where it was the actual tricks of hand, and it was the coin trick.
With the cup?
No, it was the hold on, let me find it really quickly. There wasn't a cup involved. It was like I can't remember, but I used my hand. It might have been with a cup, where you like count out the coins and you make somebody think there's like one more coin than like what there actually is. Because I was looking at them and that was the easiest one. I was like, okay, like I'll start here. And I was like, yeah, I was feeling deceptful that day. And I was like, I want to go trick a friend. I want to see if I can like passes by or if they're going to catch on to what I'm doing. Because also, right, something I think about when it comes to stage magic is there are some tricks at this point, just because like society has developed and we know things, where like some tricks don't work the same as they used to. I think of card tricks sometimes because we know like what to expect. Like, oh, it's up your sleeve. Like we know this one. But people like way back when would have been like, and like lost their skirts over it. So yeah, I tried the coin one. I'm like, this is simple enough. And genuinely, I had my friend like frustrated. They were frustrated with me. They were like, what are you doing? I'm counting this many, but you keep pulling out this other one. And I'm so, and I'm not going to lie. That feeling, so I can't imagine what Black Herman must have been feeling all the time, because that little moment where I like, I don't know, it was, I don't even have the words for it. Like
I
I
know
felt,
something that you don't.
just like hee like little secret that I have. But yeah, that was so fun. I'm gonna try some other ones and I'll keep y'all posted if I'm able to pull them off. But that really gave me another level of confidence. I was like, okay, I'm deceptive. All right. Yeah.
My favorite thing too is that like it was also like some of his tricks were just straight up sassy. Oh, bye, Takara. It's been lovely seeing you, love. I think that for me it was like I literally laughed out loud because I thought you were gonna mention the one with the coin that he puts it at the bottom of like a little cup and then he puts a hat over it and then he's like, oh, like tell me that the cup is on top of the coin, whatever. And then he's like, yeah, it is, yes, it is. And at the end he's just like, no, it's on the bottom of the cup. And it was just like a very sarcastic, like, are you sure? Because technically, and it just reminded me again, like, he is so intelligent and so misleading. And like sometimes there is such simplicity to his art form that we just don't notice because sometimes the trick is letting them think it's a bigger trick. And so they themselves get lost in their own version of like magic and what's going on and whatever. And it's just like, nope, it's just technically on the bottom of the cup. Like, and so for me, it's just like, yo, heavy magician energy, so smart, but also a smart ass in the best way.
That's the quote of the night. Smart and also a smart ass. All right. Yeah. Any other thoughts on anywhere around the book? Anything that you didn't have a chance to share that's really been something you want to share with the group?
I love too in this book how we got to see like the little advertisements for like the occult books. That just made me so happy. I was like, oh my God. Like, people studied occultism or did things outside of the church just off GP because we're in this space. But it's really cool seeing it in like pulp style, the terrors of the evil eye. Like, cool. Didn't we just read? Yes. I love this part. This gave me so much joy. Like, this is cool. People were buying these for $2 and $3.
Right. As like a little history head, I love seeing like anything of the past, like the advertisements, the words, whatever. Like I love it all. And also, Monica, I just kind of wanted to make space if like you had any questions that came up for you as you heard us discussing the book that you wanted to bring up too.
No, but I had no idea that it was. I thought it was like more like a biography. I didn't realize it was gonna have like astrology and dreams and on top of stories of his life. So I actually love it. And this is like I I want to get the book now.
Yes.
So thank you though, because and everyone's interpretation and their own practice in it was really good to hear because I may have a different perspective too, and I'll share it with the in the coven.
Yeah, I love that. And if you don't already know, you can actually get yourself, it wouldn't be a physical copy, but there is a free PDF download
Oh,
that is within the Coven community that you could like go download right now and you can start getting a head start on what's in there.
I missed that. Oh, thank you.
Check that out. Yeah. And if for some reason like you still can't find it or something, let us know in the Coven and then we can like pin it right there so you can just pull it up really quickly. But you should be able to find it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course, Monica. And yeah, any other final thoughts? I feel like we're nearing the wrapping up of this conversation here.
I want to say, as a Christian, Monica, you said that you identify with the word Christian because you grew up Catholic. There are so many magical elements to like our faith, and Black Herman does a really good job of bringing those out, particularly in the dream section. Like there's a section here that I would like to read. It's from page 65. The citation above quoted should be ample proof to those of Christian faith and also to the civilized world that there's a secret withheld from men which can be made manifest only through dreams. So if you don't need confirmation that the Bible is a magical book, but
Yeah.
like he makes it so adamant and so reachable for you as a Christian to know, deal with, and abide in the Bible being a magical book, and you can still have faith because he immediately talks about faith within the first page. He is an avid Christian. So Christian witch, Catholic witch, it all goes together, friend.
Yeah, totally. That's so interesting because I'm decluttering, like a deep decluttering, and I have a Bible for my dad. And I wanted to get rid of the Bible because I'm like, I don't want anything from other people. But then I just couldn't do it. I physically couldn't do it. And I'm like, that's interesting. So all I did was rip the page that had, to me from him. And I kept it. And it feels better.
That's great. That is great. Again, I'm a Christian as well. Keep your Bibles. Jesus is cool and he is into a lot of cool stuff. It's the
Yeah,
customer service reps. They need to be fired
exactly.
vigorously.
Exactly.
Immediately
Yeah.
yesterday.
I connect with him and his unconditional love and his compassion and everything. But you're right, it's the people. And my dad, even though I'm Catholic, but my dad, he became like evangelical or Pentecostal. I kind of forgot. And I'm just like, no, like it was just too much. I mean, I understood the feeling in the churches, but like the people, it's the people. I was like, this is nuts. Like I couldn't wear pants for a little while. And I'm like, what? Like, like there's just too many like really rules that they impose that has nothing to do with the Bible. But speaking of the Bible, I have a King James version, but do you guys have another version that is easier to read?
I personally, I have a English standard version. It's common. I personally like it because it's written in a more like plain English that's really easy for me to understand. So that's one that I like. But I'll let you, Nisi, take it because this is your domain.
I have like a plain English one too, like an NIV version is typically what they used to give us back in the day when I was still going to church. But eventually when you are ready, there is a lot of good wording that can be looked into in those old King James versions of the Bible. So when you are ready, go back to it. When you're ready.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah, because then I was thinking about it. I'm like, but I can't even read this. I don't understand it, But okay. NIV and
Yeah,
ESV version.
definitely agree with that about going back to those versions if possible, because funny enough, a call back to what we're talking about in Black Herman storytelling, there is that coded language. There is that, I don't want to call it double entendre, but in the same passage, you can read three meanings. Where I feel like when it gets simmered down, unfortunately, sometimes the most obvious meaning, or because man and his ego, the meaning that is intended for you to understand versus the one for you to get for yourself is the one that's presented. So definitely, I would say on your own pace in your own journey, maybe go through the one that is most comfortable to you. But once you not only deepen your connection and broaden your horizons as far as like the POV you have for these stories, revisit the more artful and poetic versions of the Bible, because you're going to understand that in the same way that they revere him, they celebrate him, they fear him, like the emotional capacity, in my opinion, is a little bit different. And I think that something that I've done even as a form of meditation is that I will take just the one passage and I will read it over and over again and see what comes to me and see how I interpret and understand it. Sometimes I'll just read it, then I'll read it putting myself in the scene. Then I'll read it from a perspective of what if he was talking to me right now? And it's crazy how in the same passage you will hear so many different messages. Whereas I feel like in what I call respectfully the watered down versions, you get the watered down version. So
I
that's
love
something to
that.
consider. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna write some of this down.
Always good. Always good, June. And yeah, like last little thing, Monica, also like I would highly encourage you, explore, see what other versions are out there, see what little snippets you can read, see what you think will work really well for you. And then yeah, going back to like the King James version and doing a little comparison work, seeing what works for you and doing finding what just ultimately finding what works for you there.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. Baby steps, right? Like to go to one
Yeah.
that's readable and then go back and then like feel it. And I like what you said was to take a passage and like meditate on it and that you get different messages every time. That's cool.
I will also say to kind of help put you in that headspace, I find that the Psalms also tend to be very poetic. And the reason why I use the word poetic is because it makes the information you're getting more flexible. And it allows you to look at things from a perspective that isn't just, this is what is happening. You know what I mean? But like when you read like Psalm 23, for example, and he's like, he prepares a table before me in front of my enemies. It's like, it's so many things. He provides for me even when I can provide for myself. He protects me when I feel the most vulnerable. He allows for me to feel empowered in the face of adversity. And that's all the same line. So I think that even using the Psalms as a form of training wheels to kind of get into that mentality of like, yes, it is theatrical, but talking again about engagement, how else will you receive the word of God if not making it as grandiose as possible? Because that is what it is. So that's another tool maybe for you to consider.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, guys.
You saying that just now, June, is just reminding me of the entire conversation we just had around like the embellishment and the storytelling and just how that's just part of us. Also, Nisi, he was so cute. Oh my God.
I know he'll be 8 on Friday, girl. I'm terrified. He's growing up too fast.
Oh my
God bless you, baby, honey, because 8 years old, I can only imagine that just yesterday you was changing his little diapers, and then in another 5 minutes he gonna be talking about school and partnership and getting into some dumb stuff and hopefully not taking after us in the bad ways. Like it's
Mom, can I
crazy.
take the car? Mom, like God, I'm not ready.
But you just don't want it yet.
Very true. Very true.
This has been a great discussion today. But yeah, before we fully wrap this up, I just want to give one more little space. If there was any last minute things we want to share before this conversation is concluded. All right. So let's move forward. So going into our closing announcements, next month we're going to be reading Consorting with Spirits by Jason Miller. I always want to say James Miller. I couldn't tell you why, but Jason Miller. And a little bit about what this book is about. And I'm just going to read what's on here. Consorting with Spirits presents a detailed explanation of what spirits are, their different classifications, and how they exist in relation to the world that we live in. We're going to be learning a system of practices that will help us cultivate 3 main skills that we're going to learn throughout this book. The capacity to perceive spirits clearly, the ability to interact with them effectively, and be gaining tools to help us deepen our relationships with our spirits, with our spiritual court. It is this focus on deepening relationships and increasing clarity in communications that has been missing from much of the material about spirits. And this is already making me think about, again, right, that black and white style of writing, this more like fantastical style of writing. And I'm just I'm noticing internally for myself how I lean more. I like me some practical things. So this is going to be a fun chat too when we get around to talking about September's book. So that's just a little sneak peek for what you can expect. If you haven't gotten the book yet, you know where to find it. So I'll let you guys know what to do there. And then events that we have going on. So, and as you guys know, always check the events tab in the Coven community portal to see like everything that's updated there too. September 13th at 8:30 p.m. or 8 p.m. Moonlit Metaphysics is going to be happening again with Alexis. And then September 15th, Allie is having her first ever BronxWitch Talks, which I'm really excited about, or Witch Talks. And basically, it's going to be like TED Talk style, but there's the ability to be in person if you're in the area and go have a nice glass of wine, go hang out. And if you aren't able to make it in person, it's also going to be available as a live stream. And more information is going to come in like super soon. So just keep checking that events tab to see what's coming up. And and then other than those events, we continuing to have our Witches of Color support group every third Sunday. Book club, we're going to see each other again on the fourth Sunday. And I believe that's all the announcements. And with all that said and done, thank you guys so much for being here today. I always love these conversations that we get to have. And I send you off into the night to go enjoy the rest of your Sundays. Go get yourself a good start for next week. And just blessed be. Thank you guys.